The Dice Tower, episode 593. Slap it, ship it, stain it.
The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by USAopoly. Share laughter and make memories. Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, I recap my local convention experience, Mandy and I gab about games played, and we'll discuss how we organize games on our shelves in victory points. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
And welcome everybody back to the podcast. It is lovely to have you here. At the time we are recording, I am being snowed on. Well, my house is being snowed on here in the Seattle area. We're supposed to get like a foot of snow this week, Mandy. That's a lot for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just another normal day here in Ottawa, Canada.
Oh, you Canadians. But there's bigger news than the weather. Dun da da da. The Dice Tower Kickstarter is over.
Oh,
and
I was going to say, are we happy that it's over?
No. Well, okay. And it was a massive success. Holy cow. I mean, I don't want to say I'm surprised because I'm not that the campaign broke $300,000, but that level of support is just so amazing and kind of humbling and really, really exciting. So I just want to thank everybody for your incredible support in the campaign. We are all just absolutely thrilled. And I got to be honest with you, even more exciting than the final dollar amount is the number of people who backed the Kickstarter. 7,000, like almost 7,400 people, I think, Mandy, backed the Kickstarter. And that's a lot of people.
That's an amazing amount of people. And I definitely know from reading some of the comments, there were a lot of new people that were coming to the Kickstarter and saying, hey, I've just started watching your content. I'm really enjoying it. Looking forward to seeing, what's coming up for next year. And to me, that's great. Like it's always fantastic to have people who have been with the Dice Tower for a long time. I mean, we definitely appreciate your support. It's also really nice to see new people coming in as well and kind of jumping in on that. So that was amazing, amazing stuff.
So thank you, everybody. We will do our darndest to live up to all of your hopes and expectations, the whole Dice Tower crew. And of course, our most heartfelt thank you there. And personally, I'm super excited. I backed it because I wanted those little animal dice meeple thingies. Yes. Oh my gosh, they're incredible. I can't wait.
I'm very excited.
And the other thing I've been doing is hanging out at my local game convention because for those of you who may be dropping in out of the blue, this is a podcast about board games and card games and the people who play them. And I was at a local board game convention that I actually help run here in the Seattle area called Game On Con. And it was a little different because of the snow. For us in this area, snow is not the norm. And so we had some challenges around that. But oh my gosh, it was so much fun. We had it just in the Red Line Hotel and we used their conference center and people could get rooms and we work with the catering or with the restaurant there so you can get food served to the table and all that. It's really relaxed and fun. I brought in a bunch of games to kind of serve as a game library. There's one of the quirks of it here is that there's a lot of wargaming, like massive hex encounter, just huge maps under plexiglass with hundreds of little tokens on them. And so there's a lot of wargaming there. And I got to play a ton of games. It's one of my favorite things about this local game convention is I just get to play games. So, Mandy, we're going to have to talk soon because I played Underwater Cities twice there.
I can't even, I was going to say something and I'm like, but is that going to ruin our upcoming review of it? So I'm just going to say, well, good for you. And we'll talk about that next time.
And I played the expansion for Root for the first time. Now, I've played Root a bunch because I love it.
You played the expansion.
But for the first time, I got to play one of the expansion factions. Yeah. I got to play the lizards.
Wait, are they an economic one?
No, I played the lizard cult, and I was trying to convert everybody into the way of the dragon god, and I had a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, amazing.
And we started our Rise of Queensdale campaign. This is my first ever legacy game. And this is designed by Inka and Marcus Brand. We are through 6 games of it now. And I mean, I guess I've played 6 games of it. I could theoretically review it, but it's so interesting. I think we're about to hit like a plot twist again where it's really going to amp it up another notch. So I kind of want to wait, but I will just say I am really, really enjoying it. So Rise of Queensdale is, I don't know, maybe I'm a legacy game fan after all. I don't know. I've got to find out.
Maybe we should do a little, eventually when my game group gets their act together. When they're not so busy, we can continue our Thunderstone Quest campaign. And then maybe I can talk a little bit more about that and you can talk about yours and, Yeah, that's a thing.
We'll have a campaign-focused episode. That would be kind of fun. I could do that. And so, I bring this up primarily to say, I know that there's a hunger for game conventions out there and that it seems like even on this show with Tom and Eric and Mandy and myself, we talk about Gen Con or PAX or all these big conventions. And I know for a lot of people, they feel like they're out of reach for any number of reasons. And I just want to remind people that with a will and some effort and a little bit of work, you can make small local conventions happen. We just have it at a small hotel. We work with the hotel manager and their event manager, and we send out invites to the local gaming people, and boom. We had to cap attendance because we have so many people that want to come. Wow. 150 people. It was 5 days of gaming deliciousness. And I encourage you, if you want something like that in your life and you feel like you're up to it, give it a try. Try to put it together because it's not as hard as it looks, and it is as hard as it looks, but it's well worth the effort if you ever get the chance to try to do it yourself.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. See,
yeah, it was.
I know. I love having those small ones at home. I have a whole bunch I'm going to be doing next year, so I totally get that. It's nice. You feel at home, relaxed, and get to play some games. Looking forward to that myself.
Always room for more games, right, Mandy?
Oh, well, and my doorstep definitely saw a lot of them. So I'm just going to mention a few in case anyone's, thinking about them. But Glenmore 2 Chronicles. So this is published by Funtail. So I haven't opened it yet. Okay. I know.
I'm so envious.
But I played it a while ago, and from what I remember, I think I liked it. No, I'm pretty sure I did. I don't know. I need to play it again just to kind of... Gosh. Well, they may have changed some things. And anyway, I need to get it to the table. I know my game group's really excited about it. So just throwing it out there, something that we're going to be talking about on the podcast. It's coming to Kickstarter in March, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they're going to Kickstart it?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
So when that happens, I will be talking about it on the podcast. So listen for that. And then I also received a game called Consumption. So we're talking about food, not any type of disease, which I need to specify before I throw that out there.
Like that old-timey coughing disease.
Wait, was that tuberculosis? Is that what it ended up being? I don't know. I was watching the show Lore. Anyway, I digress. So Consumption by Colossal is published by Colossal Games. And the box for this is huge. And this is also coming to Kickstarter, I think, end of February, if I'm not mistaken, around there. And again, a game that I know a little bit about, but I think the person that actually did it is a dietitian or someone that is definitely in the realm of food. So they know all about it. So I'm excited to see how the gameplay plays out because I think it is on the not heavy, but like more on the heavier of the medium side. So be curious to see how that happens. Terror Below, which is currently on Kickstarter. Yeah. And this is published by Renegade Game Studio. And I looked at the art of this one and I'm really digging the whole, vintage kind of horror theme vibe. Think like The Blob, so that kind of, I don't want to say cheesy. That's not the right word, but it's like that campy. That's
Are we allowed to it's Tremors. It totally reminds. Can we say that? I don't know. Do I get in trouble for saying that?
No, I think you can. I just said it was campy, but can I tell you, I love that. Like, that's the stuff that I like. So for me, like, ooh, this looks good. So this one I've played. Once. I'd like to try it again, but this is on Kickstarter right now. So
it is indeed.
Get some more info on that. And then my last one on the list, and I know Suzanne will talk about this too with me, is Ocean Crisis.
Yay.
And this is coming to Kickstarter in March, and this is by Shepherd Kit. And I've done a couple of games. They're Numeracy Trilogy, and what was the other one we talked about on the podcast? Oh my God.
Paleolithic.
That's it. And so these are educational type games. And like I have to say, as a teacher, and I'm sure Suzanne's someone who have children and in that environment, Ocean Crisis looks pretty fun. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out, but we'll definitely be talking about it on the podcast closer to March.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I am envious of your Glenmore 2 Chronicles, I gotta say. So I am looking forward to hearing more about that.
Very exciting.
We have a ton of games to talk about, and I want to get into it, but I do want to mention, now that the Kickstarter is done, Mandy, you and I have some work to do pretty darn soon on our new show. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah. We got to pick a name, don't we?
We need a name. So Mandy and I are so excited that we get to start a new streaming show. We'll be streaming live on the YouTube channel for Dice Tower and Twitch very, very soon. We've been working on this new show where we're going to be streaming online games. So whether it's a board game app or a game on Steam, we're going to play against each other. We might have some guests drop in. We might have some giveaways going on, things like that. But we are, in case you ever haven't noticed, we're not necessarily the best at naming things.
Whoa. I just think it takes us a long time before we, hit that. Okay. Yeah, we're not so great.
So we are looking for your assistance. Don't forget, you can go onto the Board Game Geek Guild for the Dice Tower and put your suggestions for names for our new show. We appreciate it. And there is a little special roll and write prize for the person who provides the name that we end up choosing, which I personally think is awesome. So there you go.
Super good.
But man, we got games to talk about. So enough with all this dribble drabble. Let's talk games.
All right, so I've had a busy couple of weeks, some family stuff going on, and I was able to get a few games to the table. So albeit they'll be shorter games, but hey, games nonetheless. So without further ado, the first game I'm going to talk about is Slap It. I know, I said that with
so
such
excited
enthusiasm.
about this.
Oh, well, we'll see how good I was at it. But this is a game that was designed by Kane Klenko. The artist is Lena Cossette, and the publisher is Renegade Game Studios. So this game is about $14 Canadian, $15 US. And right now, I believe on websites, it's for pre-order. And if you haven't listened to the podcast before, the prices that we generally will use are taken from the website. So one being Board Game Bliss and the other being Cool Stuff Inc. to give you an idea of the pricing. So this game plays 2 to 8 players, and it plays in about 5 to 10 minutes, and it's like a dexterity real-time game. So I'm sure we all know where this is going. So in the game, you have some cards that are kind of laid out in like a circle, and these are nice big kind of tarot-sized cards, and you're trying to acquire as many cards as you can to get the most points. It's fairly straightforward. One of the players will have some dice, and you're going to roll them in view of all the players. So something else that I should mention is that in this circle, in the middle of where the cards are kind of laid, fanned out in kind of this circle, in the middle, there's this kind of disc, and it has arrows on it going in one direction and then going in the opposite direction. When you roll the dice, it's letting you know what type of monster you're looking for, but then the other die also tells you in which direction you have to kind of go. So just when you think, oh yeah, it's the biggest one here. Oh no, the arrow's saying from here, but potentially this many in the opposite direction. So it may not be the monster immediately that you think it is. And the first person to slap the correct card takes that card, and then you put it in front of you, because that's going to be counted as points. And then the dice goes to the next player, and then it's repeated in clockwise order, and you continue doing so. When 2 monsters are left on the table, that's when the game ends. And then the players basically count up their monster cards that they've taken. And then the player with the most cards wins. Oh my goodness. I think I was bad at this game for like 6 rounds, or I'm not even sure how long. It just felt like that. I literally looked at my pile of emptiness and went, yeah, okay. I'm not good at this game. My coworkers, I think, took pity on me and were like, oh, let's toss her a bone. I'm like, no, you let me fight for these cards. And I ended up with like 2 or 3 or something ridiculous. But I mean, it's fairly simple. It's a bit more than, there was another game we played I think it was by North Star, and the name is escaping me right now, but they have another little kind of monster one, very similar with dice.
Yeah.
And it comes in like the zippered pouch, and you're trying to, Yeah, so it's something very similar to that one, but this one has a little bit of trick to it, whereas you're not just picking the one that's on the die, you have something else that changes potentially the direction you're going in to catch it. So while you think it might be that one, it's like, actually, no, it's to find the biggest one and then go in the opposite direction to find the monster. So it might be 2 away, 3 away, depending on what the die shows. So that definitely throws you for a bit of a loop because now you have like 2 or 3 things to think about. So I liked that because it made everyone kind of stop and pause and go, which one? And then you get those people who put it on slap the wrong card. You're like, ha, sucker, wrong one. And then, you have the opportunity to catch it because you can't slap more than once. Like once you do that, and that's something you can enact. It's another kind of rule that you can put in. So people who are maybe newer to the game have an opportunity to catch a card. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not a huge dexterity real time.
You really aren't, Mandy.
I'm just really bad at them. I really am. And, generally don't make me feel good about myself because everyone's like, oh, I'm getting it and I'm not. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. We actually had a lot of fun. We just needed something silly, but still made us think a little bit. And I like that part of it. The cards were great. The art was really good. Colors were vibrant. It came in one of those cylindrical boxes. So I know people aren't a big fan of those, but I didn't mind it. It was small enough.
Like Junk Orbit, right? They did that with Junk Orbit too.
But a smaller version. So, I mean, it fits nicely in my cabinet at work, but I get it. It might not be for someone on their shelf, but I didn't mind it at all. But overall, I mean, the dice were nice and big and chunky. I mean, and I like the fact that they accommodated it to people who were not maybe as quick or, needed some time to learn the game. You could adjust. So, I mean, that's a plus for me. So, not necessarily a game for me because of the dexterity real-time element, but I definitely see it as something you could play with friends. It might be a little much for children.
I was going to ask you, is that something my kids might like?
It depends. Because of that added element with the dice where it's not just what you see on the dice, then okay, you slap that monster like the North Star one I was telling you about. This one adds the other element where it's like, you see the monster, but you could also have a directional change. And the die tells you kind of like, it's this red monster, but the biggest number, but you're going in another direction. So it adds a few more elements to it. So I'm not saying that children can't play it, but they definitely need to be in that mindset or maybe slightly older.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, just to be on the safe side. So that was Slap It. Slap It if you're into the dexterity. Might be for you. I was terrible. But again, like I said, we still had some fun with it.
Oh, cool. Well, I am going to talk about a game called Fertility.
Okay.
And honestly, I really hate the name of the game. It really refers more to the fertile valley and having fertile land, but it's just, in the board gaming sphere, it's kind of weird. So I had Fertility. I brought it to that game convention, to Game On Con over the last weekend, and it just kind of sits on the shelf. And what I will say is the name does nothing to draw people to it. Nobody looks at the game called Fertility and goes, oh, I want to know more. And there's nothing about the name Fertility that really makes you think anything about the game from a thematic or mechanical point of view. It's not evocative. So I'm just got to put that out there. Yeah. But Fertility is a domino-style tile-laying game designed by Cyril Leroy. There's art by Jeremy Fleury, and it's published by Catch-Up Games. Now, it's not available in North America. This is a game I purchased at Essen a number of months ago.
I remember.
From Catch-Up Games booth, and I saw it on Philibert. If you ever want to get French games, I use the website Philibert, and they had it for €32.50. 32.50 euro for what that price point is worth. So Fertility, domino tile laying game where you have tiles that have 2 halves, and you're going to have cattle, alabaster, papyrus, or grapes on them, or some mix therein. And you've got a shared board, and you're going to be laying tiles, and where tiles match the type as they connect. So you put a grape square that touches a grape square, then you're going to get a grape resource. If you have a tile that you manage to align and it touches a grape and an alabaster, then you'll get a grape and an alabaster that way. There are some spots on the board where if you cover them up, you'll also get a bonus resource, that kind of thing. But basically, you're laying these tiles, just very similar to very simplistic domino style gameplay, to get those resources. Well, you use those resources then to purchase tiles that go on your personal board. And these are square tiles. They're like shop tiles, I think they call them. And you've got a little personal board where you can add these little tiles to. And each of those tiles that you've put on your personal board have some kind of resource for point exchange system. So maybe you drop a grape here and a grape will give you 2 points in that specific spot. Or maybe a tile has a spot that says, give me 2 alabaster and I'll give you 7 points. And that's really all there is to the game. You're going to lay tiles, pick up the resources, allocate those resources to either buy new shop tiles or allocate them to existing tiles on your board for points. There are those simple resource exchange spots. There's this set collection monument thing where the more different monuments you get, the better. There's this rule where if you block off a corner, like a specific square on the board, you can put one of your little 3D cardboard monuments for potential points. There's a resource called wheat that you track that can give you points. Points, resource. Really, fertility is a lovely filler. I really actually enjoy the game. It is very simple. It is very quick to play. I think the box says 45 minutes. If you know how to play, you can knock this out easily 30 to 45 minutes with, 3 or 4 players even. It's such a light, simple game. If you like tile laying games, if you like that domino style thing, if you like light resource management games, this is a solid one. Quirks of the game, the title for sure. The components are fine quality. They're nothing to write home about, but they're not bad. Like they're just normal. They're fine. Except those resource bits. They are custom wood resource bits with custom shapes to them. They are so small, Mandy. I can't even tell you how tiny they are. They are smaller than my pinky nail. These little teeny tiny grapes, these little teeny tiny papyrus plant thingies. It doesn't bother me. I presume some people who are a little more ham-handed might have a problem with them. They might be easier to lose because they're so teensy-weensy, but they have to fit on your board. So I think that's partly why they make them so small. Ultimately, it's something that we put the game out. We kind of mock the size of the resources, and then we just play the game. We never really think about it again. It's not a huge deal. But Fertility is a pleasant game. It is a fun, enjoyable, fast tile laying game. If that appeals to you, I think it's worth a look. I really have had fun with it. I think what sets it apart for me is its simplicity and its quickness are what really drives me to enjoy Fertility from Catch Up Games.
Is it something you can play often, do you think? Or is it kind of like, okay, a few times and okay, we're good. I don't need to play it again. I don't know. What are your thoughts so far on that?
I think you're going to get a few plays out of it. I've played it 3 times, I think. And, I enjoy it. It's fine. Is it a standout? I don't know. I think it depends on what you have in your collection already, whether or not this stands out. I'm going to keep it for a little bit longer. It's just something, like I said, it's so quick and light and straightforward.
Right.
That it fills that little gap for me right now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how many repeat plays you're going to get out of it, but for me, for the kind of spot in my collection and my playing habits that I'm looking for, I'm going to keep it around for a little bit longer.
Okay. So the next game on my list is Expancity. Did I pronounce that right? I always want to say Expancity. Okay, no, Expancity.
Sure, we'll go with that.
We're going to go with that. And this is designed by Alex Cutler. The artist is Cohen Pohl, and the publisher is Breaking Games. So I found this at 66 Canadian. I didn't quite catch a price on the site, so I'm assuming it's around that US as well. Plays 2 to 4 players in about 45 to 60 minutes. And here we're looking at a city building game. So Expancity, you're basically trying to build out your own city, but it kind of works in a way that you're working off other people as well to kind of score these different types of buildings that you're trying to get on the board. So in the game, each player kind of has their own kind of colored set of blocks that they're going to take. And then there's some contract cards that are shuffled out. And these are going to be cards that we can acquire to complete based on the types of buildings that we build on the board. Then we have City Hall tiles. That's the ones that go on our board in the middle. And then we're going to have some other tiles that are going to go to bag, and we're going to collect these to put out on the board in order to help assist scoring our buildings when we get to building them. All right. And then there's some also end game goal cards, which are kind of put out. And those are cards we can kind of work toward as we're building throughout the game to see if we can actually make these end game goals. So these are end game scoring points. So in the game, you're going to be you're going to be going in a clockwise order. And on a player's turn, you're going to carry out certain actions: zoning, building, completing buildings or contracts, and planning. So when you do zoning, you're going to take one of the 2 tiles that you have in your hand, and then you're going to add them to the city grid. So that's the board that everyone's working off of, and you're going to place this adjacent to at least one other tile. Now, when you place some of these out, sometimes it's just a tile with a blue tile, which is, I think it's a city building, and then you have ones that are more residential. So those are the green tiles. You also have other tiles that have kind of points on the other side. So depending on what's built beside it, will actually, once you finish a building, will either decrease or increase the point value of that building. Okay, so you'll notice tile placement's really important in the game. So when you're building, you have 3 actions you can take. So you can place a floor block from your supply onto a vacant lot. So that's one of those big chunky tiles, I don't know what you want to call them, blocks that you can place, and that's going to be like your first floor. And then you're going to add it to something that's already in progress. But there are rules onto how high you can build. Okay, so you can't go too high. If you've already have 1, you can't build up to a 3. So you have to make sure you're kind of setting even buildings. And you can also take a floor block from the reserve. So if you have none, this might be a good time to, hey, I need some blocks to continue building on a later turn. And then you can complete a building or a contract. This is an optional action. And this allows you to kind of put a topper on that building, which potentially could complete a contract that you have. And then you're going to score depending on tiles around it and how many cubes are in that tower, that building. Then you're going to refresh your hand, draw some more tiles, and then it's the next player's turn. So there are a few other kind of rules in between that, but that gives you a general idea of how it's played. The game ends, I'm trying to remember offhand here, I think it's when all the tiles have been played, if I'm not mistaken, even ones from players' hands. So all tiles completely have been played on the board. Players will then finish their turns. Game's over. So I don't know if you've played this one, Suzanne, at all?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so this is the type of game I've been hearing so many amazing things about. I actually felt really bad that I didn't love it.
Oh.
And unfortunately, I played it again. Actually, I played it multiple times. So once with someone who had not played games, a lot of games. So they were new to the whole gaming thing. It was a colleague of mine. And then I played it with my regular game group, and the reactions were very different.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, the person, my colleague who had not really played that many games, she loved it. So that to me signified that it was simple enough for someone who was new. Not that she couldn't grasp something difficult, but it's like, it's a lot if you're taking it all in. And she caught on really quickly. She was really enjoying the ramping up of the game. So as it progressed, she was like, oh, I can see how I can gain lots of points if I try and do this. Like, it provided a variety of ways for someone to potentially score based on their contracts or just trying to build the buildings and gain the points that way. I definitely think that she liked the way that it was kind of back and forth. Like, I'd get points, the other player would get points, she'd get points. So she didn't feel like anyone was running ahead. So I like that the points kind of were close. Mm-hmm. When I played with my game group, I don't think we found it challenging enough.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I also found that the game ran a little long. Mm-hmm. Like, when we were nearing the end, it was like, oh my goodness. I actually had someone in the game who was just getting a little frustrated with a couple things. They're like, okay, are we done? Like, I got that kind of reaction.
Oh,
like,
interesting.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, like they were just getting, I think some of the way that the rules were written, they didn't really, it just wasn't clear at first. And then as the game progressed, it continued to go on for a long time. And I even felt near, I'd say maybe like 4 turns out, I was like, okay, like this game needs to kind of wrap up. It felt like it was lingering and I needed it to be over. Oh, but the basic mechanics of the game are fairly straightforward. You've got your contracts, you're building your buildings. There are stipulations on the types of buildings you build and how many floors you can build at a time. Other tiles around them can affect your scoring. I like all of that. I don't know why we didn't really feel that I don't want to say difficulty. That's not necessarily it, but that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody was trying to target anyone. Even if you did really, it wasn't that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. And then I think the length more than anything is what really threw us off and it just kind of turned us off a little bit. But other than that, for the new person that was gaming, she loved it. She loved every part of it, enjoyed herself immensely. Didn't really notice the length because I think they were still trying to figure everything out. Mm-hmm. So definitely it allowed me to see that maybe that's the type of player that may benefit from this game versus our group. So I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I definitely see the type of group or type of person that would. So that's Expancity.
Cool. Yeah, I can understand what I will say that I remember it being running long. It felt like near the end we were ready for it to be done, and yet we still had a couple more rounds to go. And we still felt like we had built complete cities. The tiles and all the towers were immense and spread out. We had done a lot. So it wasn't one of those things, you looked at it and you felt good about what you'd built. So I can understand that point for sure. Well, I wanted to talk about a roll and write game. I know everybody's shocked. And it's funny. I was at Game On Con and I frequently get asked by people, and these are people who play a lot of games, what is a roll and write game? And for sure, I just assume everybody knows, right? Because duh. But to be fair, why would you know? It's such a weird little thing. So roll and write games are the style of game like Yahtzee, where you have some randomizing element, like a dice roll, and then you write something on a piece of paper or a score sheet or a scoreboard or whatever that, like Yahtzee, you mark something off. Great.
Like Yahtzee.
I am such a simple-hearted person, Mandy. I love roll and write games. Well, Fleet the Dice Game, based on the popular Fleet board game, card game, right? Mm-hmm. By Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle, or Ridback, as they sometimes are known as.
We're doing that now, eh?
Published by Eagle Griffin, and we've got art and graphic design by Marius Janisonis and Nolan Nasser. Ooh, I love Nolan. It's I kickstarted this. This was a Kickstarter. Eagle Griffin kickstarts a lot of the stuff. I kickstarted. I pledged for $30, so that's what I paid for it. Plays 1 to 4. Does play solo. It plays really nicely solo. And it's a roll and write game about fishing, because the whole Fleet game series is about fishing, which I really like. I know nothing about fishing, but I really like these games about fishing.
We need to go fly fishing, you and I.
Oh boy. Man, you have so many hidden talents. I love it. So in Fleet the Dice Game, you open up the box and there's 2 paper pads. And each player actually needs a sheet from each, and they kind of just nestle next to each other to form your complete score sheet. And there's 2 different types of dice. There are boat dice and there are town dice. And each round has kind of 2 phases of play, a boat phase and a town phase. Go figure. So in the boat phase, you're going to roll these dice that have different sea creatures on them, whether it is an oyster or a shrimp or a cod. There's all different little fishies on these custom dice. You roll them, and then you are essentially drafting them. And you draft the fish action that you want, and then whatever's remaining, everybody gets to take. I've seen that in other roll and write games before, but I really like that as a core mechanism. And you are marking things off in these columns associated with those fish. As you go down, you're going to be unlocking fishing licenses and fishing boats, which are important because later in the game, there are fishing phases. And if you have a boat unlocked, you get to color in the little fishies that are on the boat. And then after you're done fishing, you got to go to town. So you get your town phase. And there's a separate section on this other sheet of different buildings that you can fill in. And they have a good variety of different things you can do. Some are straight points. Some give you another use for your fish dice. You have a barge that lets you take overflow fish. There's that kind of thing. There's a king crab that can get you endgame scoring bonus that you can earn up to. And meanwhile, you've got this income track down below, which is actually really interesting because as you earn income, you just mark these ticks off, but every few bits, you're going to get a star in that row, when you mark off a star, you get another free action, which gives you a lot of flexibility. And it really helps address the idea of having a bad roll. Because even if you don't necessarily get the action or the fish that you want to, you can still be earning these coin points and maximizing on those star actions that can help you fulfill your strategy, even if your rolls weren't optimal. And I really like that element. That's a common complaint or concern about any game with dice, is that you're just beholden to whatever the dice end up showing you. And that's not very much fun. So having some kind of luck mitigation, dice mitigation is really important. And Fleet, the dice game, definitely has that. Mm-hmm. So you're going to play through a specific number of rounds and getting fish, going to town, filling in the fish on your boats, unlocking new licenses, getting new abilities, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, maybe that sounds good to you. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But where the game really shines is in this combination of licenses and star actions and abilities. If you have played Ganz Schön Clever by Wolfgang Warsch, which is a Kennerspiel-nominated roll and write game, so a very prestigious award. It was nominated for a very prestigious award. Ganz Schön Clever is themeless. It's just numbers and colors. But why people like it is it has this system of where you can activate combinations. If you play well and you maximize your dice, you get to do something that unlocks another thing that can potentially unlock. You get this kind of chaining effect that when you manage to pull it off, it's so exciting and very rewarding. And that's what Fleet, the dice game, has as well. As you're building up these licenses and using these star actions and filling things in, you're going to find, oh, well, this gives me this, which gives me that. And now I can do this. And then I get this bonus. And when you start firing off those combos and those chains, it sings, it just hums, and you feel so good about yourself and you feel clever. And I think that that's where Fleet, the dice game, really, really shines. It's got that combo-tastic action that really works. So Fleet, the dice game, roll and write game. It's got a little more heft to it than something like a Yahtzee or a Quicks. I personally really, really enjoy it. Now, Mandy, I know you've played it at least once yourself.
I have, actually. I played it, and it was very interesting because I played it with a group of game designers. So I'm like, okay, so I have that to back me up kind of a little bit on this point I'm about to make. I enjoyed the game. We actually all really liked the game, but it took us a while to actually realize, oh, this is actually a really good game. But the rule book and the layout of the sheets were a problem for me.
Interesting.
And not just me, for a lot of people in our group. That rule book was difficult to navigate. And some things like the income, so the C kind of symbol, and then the income, so basically the money, that was not very clear. In my opinion. So we had a couple, basically, I don't even count it as a play because we had so many, oh, we should have done that. Okay, no, let's reread this. No, that's not really what it's saying. You know what I mean? A lot of this back and forth. So it didn't really give us a good idea of how the game's played, but we do know that we're like, okay, no, I think there's a good game here for sure. We just need to play it again, getting some clarifications on a few things. But for a rule book that was that small, it should not have been that difficult to get through. So I have to say, and maybe because I'm a teacher, I'm a lot harder on rule books. That was extremely difficult. It shouldn't be like that. So that was something I would look at. And even the layout of the sheets, and this came from some of the designers I was playing with, and I'm like, yeah, no, I definitely see your point. Potentially some of the way that things were structured should have been laid out just slightly differently to make it a bit easier to kind of read and understand kind of in conjunction with the rule book. So overall, though, game I think is going to be great. Looking forward to another play, but that rule book, that needs a little bit of work.
I can see where you're coming from for sure, and it sounds like even though you felt like the rule book could use some work, it didn't dissuade you from enjoying the game ultimately, but you felt like it, and I think that that's really fair feedback. It's interesting about the sheets. I will say it did take us a little bit of effort to figure out that income versus your income. What set recurring income versus what was just more coin in your pocket? Yes,
that's exactly. I couldn't remember
we did struggle with that as well. So I think that was a really good call out. Good addendum, Mandy.
I know. I felt bad saying it. Like, I'm sorry, but it was rough.
No, it's totally fair. So that was, anyway, rule book issues potentially. But hey, email me. I'll give you any tips that you need. Don't worry about it. That's Fleet the Dice Game.
And just to be fair, looking forward to playing it again. Just throwing that out there. All right. Well, we go from ships to glass. So the game that I'm going to talk about is Azul, stained glass.
Great segue, Mandy.
Oh, well, right. Stop it. I never said I was good at it. At least I didn't sing. So Azul, stained glass of Sintra. This is designed by Michael Kiesling. The artist is Chris Quilliams, and the publisher is Next Move Games. This retails for about 43 Canadian and 40 US. It's classified as an abstract strategy game, very similar in when I started explaining to Azul, which was the original. Okay.
Sure.
So this game takes place over 6 rounds. And basically when we look at it, there's a few slight differences to the original. Obviously, the art looks a little bit different. The pieces look a bit different, but a lot of the gameplay is very similar. And we kind of have like a board with like slots in it, but you kind of put them together and it looks like, well, stained glass. But the middle looks the same, where we have those little kind of circles, placards, and that's where we put reach into that. Well, now it's a box. I think they have the box you can put them in, but you reach into the bag and put all the little pieces on the circle. So that hasn't changed. And then the first player token in the center. So that still remains the same. So each round, the player with the starting player tile, so in the first turn, you're going to start with the tile, places it in the center of the table, and that's the person who will start the game. So going in clockwise order, all right, players can either advance a pattern, or you can move your glacier back to the leftmost pattern strip. So this is kind of hard to visualize, but you have strips in front of you to make up your player board. And you can basically try and take pieces of a color from the middle. So remember how I said that some of those pieces were kind of just randomly placed out on these circles? You now can take pane pieces of one color into your display, and then anything you didn't take goes into the middle where we kind of put that first player token. You're wondering, like, why am I going to do that? Well, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to force someone to take a lot of a certain color that they can't place, which is negative points. And then you're also going to have to take that first player token. You're like, yeah, I get to be first. Yeah, but if you're the first player to do that, you also get negative points because, well, there's nowhere to put that. So basically taking too much of a color and taking that first place player token first is eventually going to get you negative points. So step 1, you want to pick pane pieces of a color. So you take it from that tile or the middle, depending. And if you took it from a tile, all the rest of the pieces go into the middle, and then you try and place those into your display. And then from there, you want to check to see if you've completed a pattern. And that may be one that has multiple colors you've kind of done over a certain amount of rounds. And if so, this is where you're going to flip it. And once you've done that, you're going to have I don't know what you call it. It's a little, they call it a glazier, but there's a little token at the top. You want to move that on your next turn, so you're going to be able to finish potentially other ones that come before it. So that's something that you can push that back to the beginning of your little slots, and you can only complete ones kind of at the place of or after that glazier. It's kind of hard to explain without visualizing it, but basically that piece is really important in order for you to get these strips completed. Okay. Mm-hmm. But that also counts as this action is to move it back to the leftmost strip so you can continue to fill in the ones that are available. So the end of the game is after the 6th round, and that's when the game will end, and then you'll do some scoring. So something to note, you're not only trying to complete those strips, but by pulling off certain strips and pulling one of those tokens down to the bottom, because once you complete it, they go away into this nice little box, and one of them comes down, you're going to actually score on kind of the tiles that are in kind of circles. I don't know how to explain it. Groupings of 4 on the bottom of completed strips. Now, depending on which side of the board you're playing, A or B, will depend on how you score. So one's going to be a little more difficult, different type of scoring than the other. So you can get bonus points based on that. So it's very similar to the original game where you had the board that had the colors listed and one that was completely blank, something very similar in the type of scoring or play that you do. So this version of Azul, in my opinion, is like the gamer Azul. I don't know if that makes sense. Not to say that the first one isn't, because don't get me wrong, the first one can be completely strategic. But I definitely think just the way that the scoring happens, that there's more to think about, I think, in this particular game, because a lot of the stuff is very similar. A lot of the steps are very similar, but I definitely feel that you have a lot more going on. And I don't necessarily know if the game needed that per se, but it's there if you like that extra scoring bit. So just it gives you more to think about, more actions to happen versus just your basic 2 or 3 things you can do. I wasn't crazy about the pieces. They looked like halls.
Really?
No, they look like halls.
They do. They look so candy-like. It's...
Nah, and I know the first ones look like candy. It was like a Starburst sort of thing, but I don't know. I really liked... You can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm pretending I have the satchel, and I'm reaching in the satchel to hear the clinking of the pieces, and I like that in the first one.
Yeah, y'all are really missing out on this hand dance that Mandy is doing right now for me. I'm sorry you can't see it.
Just close your eyes and imagine the satchel and me putting my hand in and clinking around the Azul pieces. I know, it's just fabulous. So in the new one, I just wasn't getting that vibe. And don't get me wrong, people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, I'm sorry. The big deal to me, it's something I have to touch. So for me, I want to enjoy it. And that was like, yeah, okay, it's fine. Something minor, not a big deal, but it is something that you notice. I do think it comes across as, I don't want to say overly complex, because I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I actually really liked this game. Did I like it better than the original? Not necessarily, but I still really like it. And I definitely can see it having a place on your shelf. They're 2 different games. Yes, they have some common themes through them, but they're 2 different games. So if you're like, nah, I just want simple, straight to the point. We like our cutthroat 2-player game. Azul's good for you. But if you want to have those extra scoring like opportunities, it's just something a little different than the first one. So it adds a bit more complexity. Then I definitely think you might kind of veer toward this one, or hey, like me, have both. And then you can just decide which one you would prefer. So for me overall, I quite enjoyed this game. I still play both. I think if I were playing 2-player, I would still go back to the original, because I don't know why. I actually really like that kind of cutthroat vibe. You're still going to get that with this, but I do like it with a larger group of people. So that's Azul Stained Glass of Sintra. I liked it.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting. I find it to be very, people have a lot of different opinions on this. I have friends in my play group, and they're like, oh, I'm done with regular Azul. I just, they like the complexity of this. And then I've had people, especially on the Dice Tower Cruise, I had heard a number of people talking that they thought that the straightforwardness of basic Azul was more for them. And I fall in the Mandy camp. I have both. And when the mood strikes me, I will play whichever one is right for that moment.
Exactly.
The last game I want to talk about may be a little unfair. I was lucky enough. The Seattle area, for those of you who don't know, is ripe with the game community. There just seems like there's little gaming hubs around the country, and Seattle is one of them. Wizards of the Coast is based in this area. We have Daily Magic games in this area. We have a number of designers, including the game that we were just talking about, Terror Below. Mike Elliott, he is in Seattle. He has a lovely house, and his wife makes really good barbecue.
I love that you talked about barbecue there. You're making me hungry.
And we just have this wonderful game design community, including Calliope Games, which is local to me. And so I was very, very lucky that I got to try one of Calliope's upcoming games at a local gaming event. And I have to talk about it, Mandy. I have to. I feel compelled. It's a compulsion. This is ShipShape.
Oh.
ShipShape. One word.
Oh.
And this is part of Calliope's, I believe it's part of Calliope's Titans of Gaming series, where they had what they felt like were big name designers, each designing a game for this game series. But Calliope is kind of in that family weight, lighter, quicker, it's kind of straightforward game zone. That's kind of their brand essence. And ShipShape definitely fits within that. The designer is Rob Davio. I do feel compelled just to mention that I consult with one of Rob's companies, Restoration Games, on the side. So I want to be fully disclosed about that I don't know what that relationship is. It has nothing to do with ShipShape, but I don't know. I always want to be very transparent.
No, it's good. People appreciate it.
The art is from Daniels Castillo, Andrew Hepworth, and Ben Wooten. And I believe the game will retail for $30 US. Now, this game plays 2 to 6 players. Instantly, I love that player count. I love games that go up beyond 4 that are not party games. And what ShipShape is, Mandy, ShipShape is going to be one of my go-to filler games, period.
Ooh.
I absolutely love this game. So you're going to play through 3 rounds. Each round, you're going to get a new little board, and it has a grid on it. I honestly, I feel awful. I can't remember if it's 4x4 or 3x3, but you have this little grid on it, and you're going to, it's got some mice printed on it. Then there is a stack of crate tiles. And on these tiles, they are like jigsaw cut. So imagine a square and you just have different squares punched out of it. So you just have like 3 solid squares left. They're very, very clever. I don't know, like you have a ring around it. So it's all held in one piece, but it's full of holes. And then they've got gold, cannons, or contraband printed on it with a number. You're going to stack these tiles up, and then everybody has the same hand of cards, like 1 through 12 or 1 through 8. And you're going to pick a card and lay it down, and that is your bid. The person with the highest bid gets the top tile from this stack. The person with the next highest bid gets the next tile down, and so forth. You take that tile, you arrange it optimally on your board. Ideally, you want to cover up rats, because who wants rats on their boats? And then you're trying to maximize on the icons to score. Gold, you get the gold points. Cannons, whoever has the least number of cannons will not score at all, because, hey, you couldn't defend yourself. And contraband, whoever has the most contraband will not score at all, because, hey, you got caught shipping stuff you shouldn't be shipping. Right?
Tisk, tisk.
Tisk, tisk, indeed. So you've got these tiles, you're drafting them, and you've got those holes. And ultimately, when you're scoring, you are looking top down. So you are arranging these tiles so that the solid parts cover up gaps or cover up things that you might not be optimal, like maybe you have too much contraband, so you're going to try to cover up one of your contraband bits and bobs. And that puzzly shape element where you're twisting these around, trying to figure out how to optimize is great. That bidding system where you bid and you get the tiles as they go down is awesome, because when the tiles are stacked up, you can kind of see down through them. And you see different parts of different tiles that are revealed because of the way that they're cut out. And one of the rules in the game rule book is that you cannot move around. You can stand up, you can lean over, but you can't move your feet from where they are. What this means is that there are situations where you will only be able to see a little bit down the channel. So you're not quite sure what's there. So you have to balance, how high do I go? What have other people played? What's my risk of getting that tile? Is this optimal or not? Now, if that sounds too random, I will also say that the icons always add up to 8. So if you see a cannon on a tile that has a 6, you know that gives you a sense of what the other 2 icons could have. They could have a 0 or a 2 or a 1 and a 1. Like, that's it. So that is another very subtle, very clever element that adds some strategic heft to this one. Mandy, it is so quick. It is so engaging. It's fast. It's snappy. It's interactive. It's puzzly. The component quality is amazing. I'm not quite sure what this material is, but the tiles that I talked about that are cut out, they are not cardboard. They are cardboard coated foam of some sort. It's this dense black foam that's got really nice quality cardboard coating it. So they are sturdy. They are very thick. They are very sturdy, but they're very light because it's foam. And the art is great. The cards have these, they're not pirates. They're, crew members, but they're very diverse. I love the diverse cast on the cards. I love this game. And I played it, and we played another game. I'm like, I want to play this game again. And we played it again. And I was like, I want to play it again. And we played it. It was so good. So ShipShape, it comes out in the next month. Calliope Games. If you are looking for a clever filler that plays 2 to 6, that's puzzly and engaging and it's it. I'm telling you, Mandy, I was sad I didn't have it. I wanted to play it over the weekend and I didn't have it, and I was sad. So that is ShipShape.
I heard bidding.
Well, I mean, it may not be. I don't know. Everybody gets something, and it's just part of the game. And for me, that part of the game just sang. I loved it.
Okay, no, it's good to know, good to try. And the whole time you were talking about that, I thought of something from a show that I watch. Bonus points if anyone gets this. Someone starts talking about cannons. Cannons to the left of them. Cannons to the right of them. Okay, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Mandy, do you need to take a nap?
Somebody knows. Somebody knows.
Alrighty then. Well, with the canon song, thank you, Mandy. Why don't we go and take a quick digital distraction?
Let your fingers do the walking in. Tap that app. All right, so now it's time to get digital. And we are specifically looking at today Mystic Vale. So Mystic Vale is designed by John D. Clare, published by AEG, and Nomad Games is listed here. It's 2 to 4 players, plays in about 45 minutes, and you can grab this on Steam for $14.99.
Yeah, and it just released, and I gotta say, I love it. For those of you who aren't familiar with Mystic Vale, this is a card crafting deck building game. Well, what the heck is a card crafting deck building game, Suzanne? All right, fair enough. Basically, it's a deck building game where you are buying cards to add to a deck to play them later to get you points. Where Mystic Vale really shines is the card crafting part of it, because Mystic Vale in physical form uses clear plastic cards that have different bands on them with different abilities. Maybe it gives you coin, maybe it gives you a icon that you need, etc. And what you do is you're not necessarily buying entire cards, you're buying one of these cards that have a band, and you're adding it in a sleeve, and you're layering these clear plastic cards so the different parts show through. So you're actually not just deck building, you're building the cards themselves. And ultimately, as you play through it, you can create cards that are just in cards. Like a single card can have, like when you play it, it can create a powerful combo. And it's different, and it's very rewarding for me. If you're a fan of deck building games, I personally really like Mystic Vale in real life. Now, when they said they were doing an app version, I got really excited. It's available on Steam right now. They are working on iOS and Android, but I don't have a release date for those. But the Steam game, I've been plunking away at it lately, and I don't know. It is so smooth. It is so easy to play. Now, Mandy, you've played this.
Yes.
Now, what did you think about the tutorial? And like, do you think somebody could play the app and learn the game from it?
Oh, 100%. Like I've played the game, but it's been a while. So I tossed down the tutorial and let me run through it. And I want to see how it plays. I actually thought it was very clear. I thought it was easy to follow. Like it was straight to the point. This is what this does. This is what this does. It didn't necessarily play through with you right away. It kind of just gave you an idea what everything did, and then it played through with you. And I liked that because you had an idea at least what things were doing, and it wasn't overdone. Like you had the opportunity to keep going, or you could say, no, I think I got it, and then jump into a game. So I like that option. So for me, I thought it was very, very clear and easy to follow.
That's awesome to hear, because I admit I didn't do the tutorial. I forgot to.
For shame. No, I totally did it.
Because I just jumped in. And I mean, I think it's credit to the app that I kind of just jumped in. There are little on-screen nudges that tell you what phase you're in and kind of indicate what you're supposed to do. So it was really easy for somebody who's familiar with the physical game to kind of just plunk along and click, click, click. Oh, okay. Oh, that's what that button. Oh, this button is pulsing at me, so maybe I should do something there.
The button.
It was throbbing. Oh, push me, push me, push me. So it's good to know that the tutorial was very helpful as well.
So, and it's funny because Mystic Vale, now I'm going to be reviewing this at a later time, the actual base game and the expansion. I just had to peel everything off. But, like I said before in other podcasts, I'm not crazy about deck builders. And I find with Mystic Vale in general, I actually find this a solitaire type deck builder. It's one of those games where you can just kind of play by yourself. So I think it's even better so to speak, in an app kind of form.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know what I mean? Because I do find that in a setting, I mean, I don't really necessarily mind kind of playing a group kind of solitaire kind of game, but I do find this game kind of goes that way. And that's why I find it an app, it almost kind of works. And some things that I really like too is, and I know it's silly, it's not really gameplay related, but I loved when you rest your cursor on a card, it animates.
Mm-hmm.
So the card, like, let's say it has like an owl on it, which is so cute. And then all of a sudden you put your cursor on it and the eyes are moving and blinking at you. And I mean, just little things like that just make it, more involved in the game, make it come to life. And I really, really thought that was great. I really like the colors, or like, it almost that sense of burning a card. I know you weren't burning it, but it had that kind of red flash tinge to it. And it kind of matched the kind of either the player that was playing, or it matched the color of whatever the round was. So, I mean, it kind of went in line with that. And I really like that because I'm a visual person. So I really like those kind of cues. So for me, I actually really enjoyed it. And I actually really liked it on that Steam format. Now looking forward to Android, of course, but I'm very cool to play it on Steam.
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of Mystic Vale, you will find the app plays very, very well. If you haven't tried Mystic Vale, I think it's but you're interested in it, the app is a great introduction. One thing I like about it is that it will... It doesn't feel that different than the physical game in how it lays out. Now, there are some board game apps like Agricola that they took a very different visual approach for the app from the board game. So it can actually be a difficult thing to transition between them. When you look at Mystic Vale, there are some changes in how they do things, but I feel like you can swap back and forth between physical game and digital game, and it feels familiar. It feels the same. The cards retain the same look and feel. The nice thing about apps, as with most apps, it does the math for you, so you can easily keep track of your resources. There's no shuffling. The market refills automatically, which is all easy. So you can crank out a solo game of Mystic Vale very, very quickly. If you're playing online, which you can do, and you have a fast opponent, again, you can play very, very quickly. No fuss, no muss. My biggest complaint about the Mystic Vale app right now, or the digital Mystic Vale, is that it just has the base game.
Right.
And it after you go through it 20, 30 times, like I may have done, you're like, okay, this starts to feel familiar, and you're hungry for more.
Right.
So Mystic Vale digital for me gets a big thumbs up. I just want more.
Oh, me too. I think this is one we definitely might have to show on our upcoming digital YouTube-y, Twitchy stream show.
For sure. Hey everybody, our friends at Renegade want you to know that the Terror Below campaign is live right now on Kickstarter. In this Mike Elliott game, you'll be fighting off giant worms, collecting worm eggs, and dropping them off for research in this beautifully produced board game. A bunch of stretch goals are already unlocked, and the campaign ends February 27th.
We ask, you respond, we discuss. Let's talk hot topics in Victory Points.
One of my favorite segments is always Victory Points, where we ask a question and post it in the Board Game Geek Guild and get your input on the discussion topic. It's really great to see kind of what Dice Tower people are saying and thinking about different things. And for this episode, Mandy and I were trying to figure out what to talk about. We realized, how, with all the new games coming out, storage becomes an issue. Not how you store your bits in the game, but how you actually load those games on your shelves. And I think we all have our own tricks and approaches. So we posted the poll on the Guild, and 150 or so of you responded. And this is kind of where we landed. We gave you the option, like, do you store them alphabetically, by mechanism, theme, publisher, designer, box size, player count, favorites, box color. Nobody said box color. I'm kind of sad. I want to see somebody do it by box color. Or the wonderful, however I can cram as many games in the space as possible. And, Mandy, I'm not really surprised by the overall results. 40% of you said you just get as many games into your shelves as you can. And just after that, with 30%, you said by box size, which I think is closely related in many ways to cramming as many as you can on the shelves. I actually thought the next one was interesting, that favorites were grouped, and people, specifically said my favorites are grouped. Mandy, do you have a favorites grouping of shelves, or do you just not pay attention that way.
No. I have my own thing that I know we're going to talk about that later. But no, favorites doesn't. I just know where things are. So
yeah, for sure. It's definitely interesting. We're reading through all the comments. That is universal. I think people come up with a little micro system that makes sense in your head. It's like everybody's desk.
Exactly.
You know exactly where that one sheet of paper is in the pile on your desk, but nobody else would ever find it. But you know.
Oh, wait.
And it felt like game organization.
My desk
was
is
the same.
My desk is no. You know where to find things on my desk. Speak for yourself there. Ha.
You are a very tidy person. I can attest to that. So thank you to everybody who chimed in on the poll and took a vote. And if you haven't done that before, don't forget to check the guild, because it's always fun to get your input on that. And the more the merrier, to kind of get an idea of what people are thinking. Now, some of you had comments that you dropped in below, and Mandy, you and I just went through and picked a couple that we thought encapsulated some of the overall feel. So, let's talk through some of those. Here's what you had to say about game organization.
All right. So the first one is from someone we may already know, Ambirona. We organize mostly by type of game, which is usually mechanism, but sometimes also player count or designer or publisher. So we have 2-player games together, real-time cooperative games together, other cooperative games, thematic Euros, less thematic Euros, the Vale shelf. Oh, I like that. Children's games, story games, party games, train games, ... And then a bunch of small box games on one shelf. So there's quite the system there.
That is intense. Nile Design says, I sort by size of box first, then by publisher, and then alphabetically for large groups of game for a given publisher.
Okay, a system within a system. All right, Balrogus. I use a mix of things so that it makes that makes it easier to choose games when needed. First, I put aside the game that I can solo, and then join them together. And then I try to join by game weight. So party games, light intro games, and then the rest.
Juju Lotre says, I live in a country where space is considered a premium. While I could surely find a big house in the countryside, that is not the case now. So however I can cram games into my shelves gets my vote. I don't have the luxury of being able to sort by designer or color and so forth.
Okay. Cat644. I checked other, but it's probably a variation of favorites grouped. I tend to organize games by when I'm likely to pull them out. For example, games I play with my husband, games my son asks to play with me, games I play with my husband and son together, games I tend to play solo, games we get out when friends are over, etc. There's obviously some overlap, so it's not a perfect system, but it's what I've ended up with.
LMac85 says, I've tried to sort by player count, weight, designer, and other options, but I always come back to just trying to get everything stored the most efficiently, but still convenient to take off the shelf. However, there are some exceptions that are a mix. Ticket to Ride and all variations of maps are stored together. 2-player games are together, co-op games are together, and all of my Uwe Rosenberg games vertically on top of the shelf between 2 bookends. Because he's my favorite designer.
Oh.
I feel you, Elmac.
So the next is Mr. Mage 8. I really think there are only 2 scenarios everyone has. Scenario A, you have enough space for extra games. Arrange your games however you like. Scenario B, your shelves are full. Arrange by size so everything fits. I'm in scenario B.
And finally, Gazensha says, definitely the however I can cram option, aka the Tetris approach. But I try to keep expansions at least vaguely near their base games when they don't fit into the same box.
Okay.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, in coming into this, it really, everybody comes up with their little micro systems that I find are intricate and impressive.
But it works.
Mandy, how do you store your games? What's your system?
You know, it's actually not as crazy as I think people might be expecting. So I have 2 kind of shelves that are dedicated to review games. And then within that, so the review game shelf, it's just, I won't lie to you, I have it, it's a little random, but it's also based on when I receive them. So by dates. So if it's stuff that came in a bit newer, it's going to be at the top. Things that are a bit older are at the bottom. But it just means these are things that I have to get out and play earlier. So that's the kind of system for that. But the rest of the shelves, it's really, I try to group designers together. So I have the Feld kind of area. I have the Vale area. Now, Vale games tend to be on the bottom shelves. Anybody who plays a Vale game knows how heavy and large the boxes are. So they only tend to fit in a certain way. Same with Uwe games are closer to the bottom. The Feld ones take up they take up a lot of space because I have a lot of them. But yes, I generally group by designer. And then within each shelf, I do it by height of box. So they need to be done like where, it's like the
tallest to shortest.
Yes, exactly. That's as far as it goes, though. That's as far as it goes. That's it. I think that is not bad. How about you?
No, there's no This is a judgment-free zone, Mandy. You're safe here. You're among friends.
Meanwhile, at the ranch, so strange the way she organizes those games, that Mandy. Oh, my God.
I'll do that later. Seriously, though. So strange. No. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, though, I mean, I don't think it's weird or anything, but there is some intricacy there, Mandy.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not bad, and it works for you, and that's what's important.
So what about you? Tell us your system, if any.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. It's definitely get them into the shelves. I actually recently had to relocate a bunch of games within my house, so right now, it's a hodgepodge, absolute mess. But before that, the massacre, it's just such a mess. I hadn't really thought about consciously, but it definitely shows how I think about games, I guess. I have a Days of Wonder shelf. For some reason, forever, I've been a Days of Wonder fan. I have basically all of their games. Wow. I haven't bought the River yet, but I have I have the Cleopatra, I have, Caro Noir, I have the good ones, the mediocre, I got them all. And I group, those are all together because I just think of them as Days of Wonder games.
Right.
I have a favorite shelf. I realize I have a couple of shelves dedicated to just absolute games that are my favorites. Wow, and I never really thought about it that way. Then I've got a few designers that got their own sections. So Uwe Rosenberg, who is one of my all-time favorites. I have a number of his games, so they're all together. Stefan Feld, Mandy, actually has his own shelf.
Shelf or shelves?
Well, I'm not you, all so right, shelf.
Fair enough.
And then it really is primarily by mechanism, or not mechanism, but feel scenario. So grouping. So Euro style games, worker placement style games together, party style games, family weight games. I kind of tend to group them by then. By then? By what? Oh my goodness. By that. And it makes sense in my head, but I have friends that come over to my house and I wonder if I ask them, does this make sense to you? I wonder, can you tell me? What are the categories that you see before you? Other than noticing the Uwe Rosenberg Days of Wonder and, I also do Red Raven games together. Okay. Because they're so pretty. Oh. But other than that, I don't know if they would actually recognize the complete logic, the absolute sound organizational logic that my shelves are made of. I wonder. I'll have to ask them.
No, I think my friends have noticed mine. Now that I think about it, they're like, yeah, no, I saw it. It's on the Uwe shelf, or it's on the Feld shelf, or it's on the...
Nice.
Yeah. So no, I definitely think they've noticed. So on some shelves, and I should mention it, some shelves I have it by publisher, and that's based on games where I maybe only have one-offs from a certain designer. So sometimes I'll throw in, do you know what I mean? If I have just singles, and I'll just throw up a publisher together. So Renegade's one that I do that for, actually. So, because I have a whole shelf dedicated for Renegade. So I have quite a few other games. It's actually just easier if I have them in one section. Actually, that's weird. Now that I think about it, I do actually have designer shelves and then publisher shelves. What? How is this coming to light? All the realizations.
Light bulb.
I just realized
you're self-actualizing right in front of us, Mandy. It's amazing.
I'm picturing my shelves. I'm oh my goodness, as we're talking about it. Wow. Yeah, I totally do. But okay, there you go. That's a moment.
And I really like I can't remember who it was that said that they do it by the scenario that they would play it in. They have games that they'll play with their spouse, games they'll play with their kid, and the games that they'll play with their spouse and kid together. I can see how absolutely functional that is.
Yes.
But also completely unique to them.
Right.
And those shelves would look like no other shelves in anybody else's house. It matches their family needs perfectly. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. And we should explain too, like, I mean, I'm very lucky. Like, I have a basement. And I know some people don't have a basement, and I have a fairly large house. So for me, I have a lot of room to put these things, so I can be as liberal as I want with, how I arrange it. But I know a few people have mentioned they don't have that option.
Absolutely.
And it's literally just however I can get it there. And I think that system will work because you'll know. You'll know where it is. You're taking them out, you're putting them in, you'll know. Now, it may not have like a quote unquote kind of set system that everyone can say, okay, it's publisher, it's by this, but you'll know where they are. And that's it. You got to keep into consideration what's available to you.
For sure. And make it work for your system. And I thought it was I'm glad somebody jumped in and said, hey, space is a premium. Yeah. I can't have all these, because one of the things I was lamenting as I was going to Game On Con is how bulky and heavy our beloved hobby is.
Oh, for sure.
Game boxes, especially big, like they're getting bigger and they're getting heavier.
I agree.
I mean, Gloomhaven. Hello. Those Eagle Griffin Deluxe editions. OMG. Where the heck do you fit? Right? So
yeah.
Space is a premium. And even for people that space isn't a premium, it's becoming a premium because of how some of these games are developing. So space is an important factor to consider too. And I'm glad some of you brought it up.
Yeah.
But no matter what, as long as it works for you, it is a good system. I thought it was really cool to see what all of you do. Thank you for sharing your inputs. I actually had a little bit of inspiration with a couple of these.
Really?
Mandy had a little self-realization.
I did. Wow. I feel good about that, actually.
That is a successful victory point right there.
I didn't get ragey, but I had a moment of enlightenment. So, can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, next episode, I think we'll probably try to maybe look at the mailbag, see if we got some questions. I know I've got some emails that I haven't answered yet that I should probably answer. But hey, if you all have questions that you want to drop to Mandy or I, you're welcome to email us. Or if you have ideas for a Victory Points discussion topic, send those our way as well. We're always looking for more fun things to talk about and get your input on as well. You can email me at Suzanne@dicetower.com.
Or you can get to me at Mandy, that's Mandy with an I, at dicetower.com.
I'm Mandy with an I. I love it. And as always, thank you so much for listening. And in this case, thank you so much for your support of the Dice Tower Kickstarter. If you're able to financially support it, thank you. If you're able to socially share it on social media or whatever, thank you. And hey, if you're just listening now, thank you. That's awesome. We love having you here, and we love thinking about what we've got coming up in the next year for Dice Tower content. Coming up next episode 594, Tom and Eric are going to be back, and they are starting their alphabetic adventure with the best games that start with the letter A.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Before we sign off, I feel like I had no musical interludes in this episode.
Oh,
I know. I feel like I need to goodbye. You'll know what that movie is, where that's from. Okay. Anyway, I feel much better.
All right. Until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vasel Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvasel.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandy, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Roy Canaday, Rob Searing, and Jeff Rademacher. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. All right, it's that time again, 2 truths and a lie. So I'm going to jump right in first. So from last episode, I love the 1960s animated series Hercules. I love the animated series Super Friends. And I love the animated series The Littles. So if you said I love the animated series Super Friends is the lie, you would be correct. That was one of those series where you either really liked it,
yes,
or really didn't. I did not.
Ooh.
I'm sorry. How about you, Suzanne? What's on your list?
Last episode, I said I saw Forrest Gump 7 times in the theater. I saw The Lion King 7 times in the theater. And I saw Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion 7 times in the theater.
Oh my gosh, Romeo and Michelle better not be the lie.
The lie is Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
No, I love that movie.
It did not click for me. But I did, in fact, see Forrest Gump and The Lion King each 7 times in the theater.
All excellent choices.
Oh, that was a summer to behold. What's new for you this week, Mandy?
All right, so new for this week. Here we go. I like big box games. I like campaign games. And I like keeping games and expansions separate.
All right. And mine are, I like Xbox, I like PlayStation, I like Nintendo.
All right. Good luck, everyone. Thanks to our sponsors at Renegade Game Studios. You can learn more about Terror Below and all Renegade games at renegadegames.com.